Hey folks, Tristan here. In this video, I will quickly review the general process I follow when preparing a non-destructive game asset for texture baking and export, as the question has come up a few times on our Discord server. Please keep in mind that this video will serve as an overview only. I plan to create a separate dedicated game asset pipeline series covering the entire process in much greater detail, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. Otherwise, let's get stuck into it. I'll use a simple model I quickly slapped together for this demonstration. First, I ensure that all the model's parts are stored in a collection, which I typically call source. This collection will serve as a backup if I ever need it, as I'll be applying all of the object's modifiers shortly. I then duplicate the source collection and name it high. This collection holds the detailed version of the object, which will be baked onto the low poly version. I won't cover baking in this video as it's a deep topic worthy of its own video, but expect to see it in the broader game asset series. For those curious, I use Marmoset Toolbag to handle baking and texturing, but it's something you can do within Blender as well. Okay, I then create another duplicate collection called low. With all that in place, let's go over the high poly process first. Assuming you've already named your object in any parts, you can use ND's high LOD operator from the packaging menu to automatically suffix the object names with _high. The next step is to apply all modifiers, which you can do from ND's utils menu. I'll hold down Shift so that the hard apply alternative mode is activated. This just ensures that absolutely all modifiers are applied. Next, if I plan to texture my object in one specific region selectable via a material ID, I'll apply a global material from the material selection menu and ND's packaging menu. I can then jump into edit mode, select further details in isolation, and apply a different material ID. I would repeat this as many times as necessary. While I'm here, I'll also remove the sharp edges added by the smooth by angle modifier, given that the object's bevel is holding together the shading. Then I'll go back into object mode. As a final step, I'll apply a triangulate modifier via the packaging menu and ensure the keep normals option is checked. This option isn't visible on every version of Blender, so don't worry if you don't see it. My high poly object is now ready. Let's move on to the low poly. I'll follow the same initial process here by selecting the low LOD naming convention. I then want to remove unnecessary details that Marmoset will bake onto this object's normal map from the high poly version. I typically determine which details to remove by viewing the object in silhouette mode, which is available via ND's viewport menu. Details that don't affect the object's silhouette are typically good candidates for removal, as baking them in will provide the same visual details but without the added geometry. However, I would limit this to details that are mostly surface level, such as these circular indents at the top and the triangular indents at the corners. Even if a detail doesn't affect the silhouette, but it is more than surface level, as in perhaps it cuts quite deeply into the object, attempting to bake it will result in a less than ideal result. Normal maps are incredible in terms of the detail they can fake, but they have limits. Now that I've identified the details I want to remove, I'll open ND's cycle menu and disable the associated booleans. I'll then alt-click on the object bevel to remove it, as I'll also be baking that into the object's normal map. I'll then apply all modifiers in hard mode and add a triangulate modifier. From a geometry perspective, this is now game ready, in a simplistic sense anyway. UV unwrapping is the last thing we'll need to facilitate baking and texturing. I follow a fairly standard approach to UV unwrapping and prep when baking. First, I ensure that the entire object is smooth shaded and ignore any pre-existing sharp edges. The shading will look botched at this point, but that's to be expected. From here, the approach is to jump into edit mode and start defining your UV seams and hard edges. The general guideline is that all hard edges should be UV seams, but not all UV seams should be hard edges. The reason for this we'll cover in the detailed series. but it's important to consider when you're baking bevels onto hard edges, as I am here. This is an extremely tedious process, and given that I want all my hard edges to be marked as sharp and defined as UV seams, it seems like the perfect job for automation. Oh look, here comes Endy's UV seams operator to the rescue. In object mode, I'll select my object and choose it from the packaging menu. It's interactive and angle-based, which is what we want, but given I'm working with a standard 30-degree hard edge, the default works just fine. Knowing the default works, I can run the UV seams operator while holding down Shift and skip the interactive part altogether. If we take a quick look in edit mode, you'll see that it automatically applies a sharp edge to all hard edges and marks them as UV seams. Given that this model has no complicated islands likely to cause stretching, this will be sufficient. I could manually define a few extra UV seams in select areas to alleviate the issues if it wasn't. Let's take a look at the unwrap now. If we choose an angle-based unwrap, we can see it's perfect, and no tedious UV unwrapping work was necessary. And that's it. From here, I would export both the high and low poly objects, and then import them into Marmoset Toolbag for baking and texturing. I hope you found this quick breakdown interesting. If you have any questions, leave a comment or join our Discord server. There's an invite link in the video description. See ya.